report has several elements. They include: one, enhanced and strengthened oversight of public safety by a diverse committee of campus members and community members. We want to give greater strength to investigate and understand and have the information to provide a thorough assessment and oversight of campus public safety. Second, enhanced and comprehensive training of all public safety staff in topics related to community policing and our urban environment, including de-escalation and building effective relationships with diverse groups within our community and understanding the needs of people experiencing homelessness. Three, paying close attention to how campus infrastructure and building access affects our safety. We're paying more attention to the infrastructure, something that had not been in our earlier planning, because we want to make sure that we understand the impact of cameras and lighting and other things on the safety of our campus. And fourth, we want to be a commitment to ongoing review, learning, and improvement through a review of campus public safety every 3 years. As a university, we're a learning institution. We try to learn from what we've been successful at and what needs to improve and change that. We do that in academics. We want to do that in public safety as well. Our urban location necessitates that PSU begin, with the help of this plan, to confront the enormous social challenges of homelessness and addiction. In recent years, we've learned that many disruptions on our campus come from people who are experiencing dire physical, social, and emotional conditions, or who lack basic shelter and food. Their needs are acute, and our path forward must reflect our campus commitment to human dignity for everyone. For our students facing crises, we'll continue to offer a range of mental health and support services as we have done for the last decade. For visitors on our campus who need support, we're dedicated to working with community partners to find new ways to minimize the need for campus public safety response and maximize a healthcare informed response. Staffing is another critical component of our campus public safety plan. This plan seeks to balance the responsibility for safety among multiple types of staff. PSU will hire 10 new student safety ambassadors who will be visible presence on campus. This strategy was recommended by the earlier implementation advisory team and more recently by the review and response team. Student safety ambassadors will welcome visitors, offer directions, walk folks between buildings, and alert campus public safety to safety concerns. They'll be paid positions. We want students to have their part in our campus safety because everything we do here is at the heart. It's our students. Our public safety staff will include 10 unarmed campus public safety officers. This increases their presence on campus by 150%, funded with money we set aside in last year's budget process. Safety officers will respond to most calls for service on campus and will serve as a deterrent to crime, provide safety escorts 24 hours a day, and provide first aid and CPR in emergencies. There will be no change in the number of authorized sworn officers. 10 campus police officers will be responsible for enforcement, investigation, and intervention. Concerns about public safety run deep on our campus. Some members of the campus feel unsafe with the presence of unarmed officers, while others believe that an armed presence is needed to provide a safe and secure environment. I want to acknowledge these strongly held feelings and to tell you that I respect them. And I respect all of you who have shared them with us. Fundamentally, the benefits of safety and security must be made available to all members of our community, consistent with our strategic plan. Building mutual trust and respect requires us to create a climate of inclusion and equity that permeates the campus every day. I believe that the comprehensive nature of this plan allows us to take an important step in that absolutely necessary direction. My executive staff and I are committed to implementing this plan as laid out, fulfilling all of its elements. We'll report to you regularly about our progress and learning that may inspire further innovation. Maintaining safety requires constant reflection and innovation. In addition to our commitment to ongoing review, we will formally review this plan, our overall total campus public safety plan, every 3 years, learning from experiences to advance overall public safety. Campus safety is everyone's responsibility. I appreciate everyone's engagement and participation. Students, faculty, staff, and community can provide comments here or through the President's webpage, and I think we have that listed up there. We have a President's website. Also on that website, the full plan will be laid out. I've highlighted the basics of it. And I'd be glad to look forward to those any comments are submitted and share them with the UPSOC, the Oversight team. Trustees, I appreciate your trust in appointing me interim president in the midst of this difficult conversation at PSU, and I fully expect to be held accountable as we move forward.
President Percy, I want to thank you for taking a leadership role on this really hard issue right off the bat in your first months as president. As I mentioned in my opening remarks on this topic, it is the president's role to manage campus public safety. It is the board's role to hold the president accountable for that work. To that end, as you and I have discussed, there will be a specific campus security goal in your president's goals for the upcoming year. It is one that we are going to watch very closely, particularly because some of us were disappointed to learn from the Margolis-Healy report that not all of the elements of the initial public safety plan were fully implemented. So for us to provide effective oversight of your work on this issue, we would like to be made aware of any significant changes to the plan that you've just articulated. We also feel strongly that we need to be informed on a regular basis on how the implementation is going. So campus security will be a standing item on the agenda of the Executive Audit Committee, as we have discussed. So with that, I would ask for questions or comments from any of the other trustees.
My comment is the plan seems to be fairly comprehensive. It's not one solution for everything, which was actually encouraging to me when I read the plan. And so I think there's something in this plan for everybody, which makes it go forward.
If I might add a comment, I have been visiting several campus communities of this past year, and not at any of them heard anything so thoughtful, so concerned about human dignity, and so committed to the idea that we are a community responsible for each other. So I thank you for this. It's consistent with the Portland State concept, with our deep commitments, and I look forward to watching it unfold. Thank you.
Any other trustees?
One of the things I appreciate about the plan is that, this is a very difficult dimension of our experience here at PSU, and the conversations have been really disconnected and sometimes put in opposition to one another. I think one of the things that I appreciate about the plan is that it's attempting to connect conversations. It's attempting to provide us, compel us to think about public safety in a much more multidimensional way. That it's about precarity, it's about mental health, it's about the houselessness. I think that we've been thinking about those issues in siloed, fragmented, disconnected ways, and I think what this plan is basically saying to us is that all of these issues are connected, and we need to we need to recognize those connections, articulate those connections, and address them in a way that's multifaceted, that's multidimensional. And the other piece I connect with is that it also is inviting us to do differently, and perhaps by doing and engaging in this space differently, the ways that it will expand our ability to think in more nuanced and richer ways about what we mean and how we experience and define public safety on our campus.
Thank you. Any other trustees? Irving?
Steve, what do you see as the biggest risks to executing and sustaining this plan?
I think the biggest challenge is just trying to pursue healing and try to find strategies where we can come together, that we can all play a role in this work. I think we've got a lot of interesting new ideas to put forward, some new training. We need to have fidelity to this plan. That's terribly important. I don't think we did that. So I think that the biggest challenge is to try to pull us together and to keep people from all different stakeholder groups involved in these conversations and make sure that safety and the safety of our campus remains a top level priority at all times.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got a comment, Steve. Thanks for the report. And while, as Margaret and Greg said, you're ultimately responsible, I don't want you to feel like you're alone. If you need any help, you can call on me.
Thank you, Pete. Anyone else? All right. Well, Michelle.
So Steve, do you have an idea as to who would be on the Oversight Committee, Public Safety?
Yes, it's in the report. It's a broad, diverse set of people. Here that with you.
I don't have the charter with me, but there are representatives from students, faculty, staff, members of the community. The goal of the Oversight Committee, as the members are appointed, is to represent a wide spectrum of all the diversity on this campus and in the community. Mental health practitioners are involved, people who have experience and background in public safety. I may be forgetting.
Any trustees?
Sorry, and our Vice President for Global Diversity and Inclusion is one of the chairs of the committee.
What about the trustees? Any trustees on the committee?
No.
I think the trustees will be handling this through the Executive and Audit Committee meetings and oversight, to which, they're public meetings, so anyone is invited to come to them. This will, as I say, be a standing agenda item for E&A, and of course all of the trustees get notice and are invited to come to those meetings as well. So we'll be hearing about this on a regular basis. If there aren't any other trustees that want to speak, then looking around the room, no, okay. Then we're going to move early into our open comment period. The notice of the meeting, I believe, said, I can put my hands on it, that if you would like to speak, you are required to sign up. I mentioned that before the break. And we will take the time that is remaining for the folks that have signed up to speak. At this moment, we have 6 people. Oh, Jose, you're back. We have 6 people signed up, and so we're going to lead off the comment period with Jose Padin. We are going to be timing, and I think given the amount of time that we have remaining, we can give people 4 minutes, maybe 5, if it seems appropriate. So we'll be timing it, but Jose, why don't you come forward and kick us off?
Good morning, Vice Chair Kirkpatrick and Board of Trustees and colleagues. Then new board, the new composition, new members and new board. My name is Jose Padin. I'm a faculty member at Portland State University. I'm also president of PSU AUP, which is the union for our faculty and academic professionals. One of 2 strong faculty voices on campus. We speak through our faculty senate and through our faculty union. I represent 1,300 colleagues, almost 90% of whom are full members. Being on the board is, those of you who've been here before, is not a purely ceremonial post. It's not a cakewalk. And it's because everyone on campus, students, faculty, staff, are well organized and care a lot about how this institution is run, and we're committed to the public mission of this institution. At the beginning of the year, as you're thinking about priorities, there's 4 things that I want to bring to your attention that we see as very, very important priorities to keep in mind. Issues that we need to tackle. Not surprisingly, a lot of them have to do with problems that are societal in scope, but they trickle down into the functioning of the university, and we can be different, but it requires a certain leadership and vision and so on. Those 4 items are disparities, priorities, and 2 types of corrupting influences from our relationship to entities, non-educational entities outside the university. We're seeing growing disparities in the academic community, not just here, but nationally, disparities between the top and the bottom. And whenever in any community there's growing disparities, what happens is a sense of shared fate, is lost. sense of trust is lost in the community, and we start having kind of divergent visions of what priorities ought to be. Without getting into any detail, we need to look at this. I think the faculty, my colleagues working through the Faculty Senate are raising the issue when they're trying to reinvent top leadership. But probably the provocative guiding question might be, how many administrators with salaries higher than the governor of California are required to run a public university? Something to examine. When we have significant distance between the top and the middle or the top and the bottom, kind of our view of the institution starts diverging too, and our sense of priorities. So that gets me into the second issue that I'd like to bring to your attention as an agenda for the year. We have a set of stated priorities as an institution, and then we have kind of a record of where we put our resources that de facto spell out what the priorities are. Pattern of expenditures, and I don't mean the budget going forward, but looking backward where we put our money. We need to examine that carefully to see if where we're putting our resources aligns with what we think our priorities are. I don't think we necessarily evaluate that carefully enough. I looked at the record of the proposal for the 2020 budget coming from the Finance and Administration Committee, and there's not a rich discussion of priorities or comparing this to what the budget is. I think we need to look at those. And I think a guiding slogan might be here, to be a little bit provocative, is feed the core, chop the top, and just cut loose non-educational ancillaries. Okay, but in any event, engaging in a rich conversation there. The final issue is relationships with entities that are non-educational that can corrupt our core mission. In recent days, there's been some furor over the way in which one of the premier professional sports leagues in the United States is on its knees before the government of China because one of its employees exercised their free speech to support civil and political rights in Hong Kong. That's really telling that one has to compromise on those things. We have an unfinished business here at this university. Faculty Senate and PSU AUP teamed to bring up the issue of the relationship between between Portland State University and the government of China and the Confucius Institute. We asked for transparency in the agreement between Portland State University and the government of China because the earlier agreement had not been publicly available and did not include protections for academic freedom that are essential for any entity in the university. We've been told that a new agreement would not be signed without those protections. But to this day, we really don't know. If there's a new agreement, we ask you, President Percy, and previously known as Steve to me, colleague, that we want to know what the content of the working agreement is with the government of China around the Confucius Institutes. The final issue or entity that we have a relationship with, an uneasy one, and it's on the subject that you just spoke, is with the institution of policing. And there's a lot of rich thinking around that at Portland State University, a lot of concern. I think there was a little disappointment in the announcement. I'm going to hold back judgment on the plan at this point, but I'll just say that one thing is the report to the boards of trustees, which necessarily needs to be short and succinct. The other is a conversation of accountability on campus, because there were a lot of questions raised about this move towards arming the campus police. Intelligent questions by our campus community. 70% approximately of our faculty opposed that. The objections were reasonable, and we had a contingent from the School of Social Work that asked really, really serious questions about that model. So I'm sure all of these members of the campus community would want to hear answers to those questions. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Follow-up questions? No? Okay, thanks so much. The next two people on the list are Roger Kent and Alessandra Peraza. So could you come up together and we'll give you 5 minutes each, and when there is 1 minute remaining, I'll let you know that, because again, we want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak.
My name is Roger Kent Kirshner, and I'll defer to others to make comment on the campus safety item today. I have some matters of concern that I wish to present to the board, but in deference to the others that have interest in this issue, I'll wait until another time to talk to you.
The other thing is that you can submit comments and concerns online for the public safety plan.
Yeah, but my experience in working with boards and commissions, they're seldom read when you...
Which is one of the reasons we have these meetings. All right, thank you.
All right. Hi, I'm Alessandra Peraza Aguillon. I am a senator with ASPSU currently, and I'm just going to make this really short. I do not stand with Violet Gibson, who is the current president of student government, as she is trying to keep campus police armed. I'm not in favor of this. I want to make this very clear to anybody here who would love to talk to me about it, that I'm one of the few in student government this year that is not okay with this. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to go into it because you guys have seen me before, or most of you have. But I'm absolutely appalled that this is still happening and that you guys still are not arming campus security. This is ridiculous. Disarm PSU. Yeah.
Thank you. So we have Zia LaBeouf, followed by Olivia Pace, followed by Michelle Washington. So that's the order. Yeah.
I would use my voice, but clearly by this plan, I just don't feel like it's going to be heard, so I'm going to yield my time.
Thank you. Olivia?
Okay, so my name is Olivia Pace. For those of you who are new, who don't know me, I graduated from this institution with my bachelor's in Child and Family Studies in June. I was here for 5 years, 18 to 22. I've gotten a degree, I've had like 4 different jobs, and a bunch of things have happened in my life. And in all of that time, I've also been fighting on this issue. I was one of the students who started organizing really heavily in 2015. And I'm disgusted that I continue to have to be here, and I'm still here. Even after graduating, I literally took the day off work to be here because it's ridiculous to me that y'all can sit in this room and talk about student success and student persistence when most of the people who are in this room are worried about another person being killed by the police. That's ridiculous to me. That you can have people behind you saying, remember Jason Washington? You can have his family here. You can have people saying, we are black and brown people and we are afraid of the police and we don't feel safe on this campus, and have an hour-and-a-half long discussion about everything besides that. Jason Washington, I honor and I am happy about the increased concern for homelessness and mental health after all of these years. Y'all have been having silo conversations. Students have not been having silo conversations about this. We have always connected these issues. So y'all are late to the game. We have been having this discussion. And aside from that, Jason Washington was not any of those things. He was just a black person in this world breaking up a fight who was legally carrying a firearm. He was not a threat. He was not harassing police. He was not doing anything wrong, and he was still killed by the police. And so this idea that you can just like make these pushes forward on mental health and houselessness and still keep them armed, the exact thing we've been telling you to end, it's not working for us. It's just not going to work. You had an opportunity for students to finally work with you for once, with the administration, with the board, and you're closing another door because it's not going to happen as long as we feel that black and brown people can be killed by a police officer with a gun on this campus. You're talking about everything, you're talking about healing, you're talking about having open discussions, everything except for justice. The one thing you haven't asked is, What does the family want? What does it look like to actually give justice to the community who was attacked in this? Everything except for justice. And the family is standing with the students that you've been pushing out for years and years and years, not with you, because all you did is send some bullshit letter and give condolences every time without even looking them in the eye. It's disgusting. And so I'm here to speak on behalf of the student union finally, and then Michelle will have her time. But we are here today on behalf of a community that has been ignored, dismissed, and violently attacked. We have taken every step in good faith to appeal to a university whose affairs are conducted without our agency or input. Our student governance is ignored when it does not parrot the perspectives of the administration. The oversight of the state has been replaced by a consortium of undemocratic business interests and token student, staff, and faculty representation. 5 years ago, this body made a decision that would affect all of us, and none of them. Students, staff, and faculty took every possible measure to inform this board how unpopular, undemocratic, racist, and violent the decision to create a privatized, militarized campus police force would impact the community. Retreating to a private room, this body made the decision to ignore our community. This past year, this decision has echoed across the world in terms of its costs. Not the millions of dollars wasted in education funding, not the failed opportunity to let knowledge serve the city and incorporate our mission into resolving the contradictions of our society and the racist institution of U.S. policing. The inviolable premise that we have a right to live and breathe was extinguished at the hands of your decision. Thousands of members of this campus warned you that any decision to arm our security would be paid in Black lives. Students were ignored at board meetings. We've been systematically shut out of this process. The Implementation Advisory Committee was ignored by the administration. The research and knowledge of our educators that can inform this decision were ignored. When Jason Washington was murdered, when Richard Berry was murdered, we were ignored as our school paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for former campus police officers to exonerate them in a report so unscientific as to insult the academic community it was presented to. We were never invited to any audience of the administration, any advisory role, and fought tooth and nail to be heard at every point of the last 6 years. And every time we did get a toe in the door, we were always ignored. We were always told that we were dichotomizing it. We were always told that it was so much more complex than whether or not there were guns on campus to feign like you care about any of the other issues, when it's our work that has brought us here today. The only reason we're even pushing as far as you are right now is because of the work of student, staff, and faculty, because we cared. In lieu of a decision to continue the reprehensible, racist, and violent institution of policing in this nation, when you have had every opportunity to exercise a better choice, we say to you, bring it on. Our studies have taught us when a group of people take up arms in opposition to its community and reserve the authority to criminalize and murder us, this decision is a declaration of war. You, the business leaders of Portland, the six-figure salaried managers and stewards of our education, have made this distinction very clear. We hear you loud and clear. You have declared war on your students, on your educators, on your staff, and upon oppressed people of our community. From this moment forward, we will spend every minute and every fiber of our being into letting the world know one thing: do not come here. PSU has declared a war on marginalized peoples that inhabit downtown Portland. We urge any person with a conscience, with a sense of morality, and love for other people to spend their money anywhere but here. When you were asking about if I would recommend this school to a friend, I definitely wouldn't. Boycott PSU. We're done. Thank you.
Boycott PSU! Boycott PSU! Boycott PSU! Boycott PSU!
Michelle. Welcome, and could you please give us all of your names?
This is Kayla, Alexis, and Mariah.
Thank
I'm
you.
Michelle.
Yes, thank you.
The whole reason that I was wanting to come up here is because everyone here has heard the media's portrayal of my husband, that he was a father, a husband, a grandfather, a veteran, a black man, a friend, a brother, and all these things are true. But he was so much more than that. I feel like he's been dehumanized, and to you guys, he's just one person, but to us, he was our world.
Right.
and our world has been destroyed. And these people, these children, these students back here told you guys years ago that this would happen. And no one has listened. And you continue to not listen. And I pray to God that no one else has to go through what we have gone through. I mean, could you imagine having to tell your 15-year-old daughter that her father is dead? I mean, your 5-year-old grandchild, that her best friend, her papa's gone. And she continues to ask, when's he coming home? When's Papa coming home? To go to a funeral home and have to walk into this room where your husband is lying lifeless and with your children, and you have to say goodbye. Jason and I met and started dating when I was 15 years old. He's been my life partner. I honestly don't know how to go on without him. And I feel like we've worked so hard to try and make people understand what it's like to go through this. But I feel like no one's listening. And nothing's gonna change. And another person is gonna have to go through what our family is going through. And I pray that no one has to. And I pray that none of you have to. I don't want anyone to have to go through this. This is the absolute most horrific thing in my life. And I know that the decision's been made and there's nothing we can do, but I pray that one day you guys change your mind. Hopefully sooner than later, before it happens to anyone else. Do you guys want to say anything?
I am so sorry, and thank you. Adjourned. We're adjourned.
So sorry when you're one of the people who literally voted.
That was such an empty sorry.
Yeah.
Can you sense the shock in the room?
For the two people in the beginning who voted against this, two of the three people were the faculty and the student representative. This has always been students. There were three people who voted against this. One of them was a brown woman, the CEO of the Children's Institute. One of them was a student representative. One of them was a faculty representative. So we see who's been on what side this entire time. Like, there's never been a moment where people have been okay with this, and they continue to do this, and now somebody's dead.
So not to put too blunt a point on it, but we are adjourned.
Then get out.
Just like Gail. Just like fucking Gail.
Shame!
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 Shame! Shame! Shame!
Shame!
Shame! Shame!
Everything but justice. Reputation, your bottom line, student success, retention, tuition dollars.
Do the right thing, nonprofit!
This is a board of hypocrites.
Everything but justice.
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Shame!
Shame! What on your hands?
I think to try to understand it.